Sean, I'll say that again, that our principals are crying out, not just for consultation, but our principals in Jamaica, they are crying out for effective consultations, not just during a crisis, but before, during, and beyond any crisis, not limited to the current COVID-19 crisis. They are crying out for effective consultation. They're crying out that they have a voice and that they need to be heard. Principals need more support from executive educational leaders as Jamaica's educational system transitions from traditional to modern, digitized online pedagogy and andragogy. The study recommends that the present Ministry of Education serve our nation's principals through its agency NCEL to the best of its ability. In order to do so, the study suggests that there be full inclusion and equity in enrollment for all educational levels to ensure that there is no inequity, to ensure that there is not only no inequity, but to ensure that there is no discrimination when selecting educational leaders for training or retraining. This is the cry of our principals. They are crying out for effective consultation. Our principals in Jamaica, they are saying that, hey, we have a voice and we need to be heard. Also, there must be flexibility in the way meetings are structured. Again, the voices emerging out of the data of this study, the voices of the principals, they are crying out that there must be flexibility in the way meetings are structured to facilitate the principals' need for their voices to be heard and respected, as mentioned early on, and as I've been echoing throughout this presentation. Our principals need to feel valued, not just valued, but they need to feel appreciated, not just during a crisis, before any crisis, during a crisis, and beyond any crisis that Jamaica's education system may experience. They are crying for this high quality leadership to be given. Hence, the study recommends not just consultation, but effective consultation. We have come to the end of Pillar 1, Theme 1 at the strategic level. We will now look at Theme 2, Pillar 2 at the tactical level. The study suggests that there is a need for full collaboration and effective consultation among the Ministry of Education, National College of Educational Leadership, and principals, supporting each other at all levels of the education system, building building a relationship with transparency, accountability, and trust, specifically at the infant level of Jamaica's educational system. Additionally, executive educational leaders who are accountable will provide full support for principals as they implement new strategies modeled by the Ministry of Education and NCEL. What is coming out of this study and is endorsed by scholars, experts in the field, they agreed that without support coming from the executive, the top, the executive of the Ministry of Education at the strategic level, there can be no true transformation for principals operating at the tactical level. So the study is recommending or suggesting that new strategies be implemented by the Ministry of Education and EXCEL. What this is alluding to is that gone are the days when the Ministry of Education implement strategies for principals. Yes, our principals are saying this is good. We must give credit where credit is due. Yes, the strategies, the Ministry of Education, they're trying and they're coming up with these strategies. However, the point is that the high quality leadership demands that the executive leaders not only implement new strategies, but they must walk principals through the implementation stages of the strategies in their own schools. So it's not just to give the principals, hey, here's a new strategy, go implement it and leave it there. No, our principals in Jamaica, they are crying out for the implementation stage of the strategies to be carried out alongside the support, the full support coming from the Ministry of Education. The experts in the field agreed that high quality leadership demands that in any framework or model, you cannot stop at the implementation stage. It must be carried through by monitoring these strategies. High quality executive leaders must monitor these strategies, must walk along with principals in their schools, looking at their individual context, specifically at the infant level, bearing in mind that you cannot give what you do not have. And the fact of the matter is that the infant level, the foundation of education, of Jamaica's educational system, if this is the weakest link, then all other links will eventually tumble down. Well, it will, or if the infant level of our education system, let me take this a little slower. If the infant level of Jamaica's educational system, they are not getting the resources and the support and the empowerment and the encouragement, that they need, specifically the resources that is based on their context, then our overall educational system in a matter of time will collapse. Any building, if the foundation, the pillar, the columns, if they are not strong, then they will not be able to support the different floors ahead. So we know that at the infant level, the foundation, if the foundation of Jamaica's educational system is not strategically, purposefully, and passionately supported by high quality educational leaders, it's just a matter of time that our educational system will collapse. No building can stand if the foundation is weak. This study is showing that the infant level of Jamaica's educational system is very weak and need high quality educational leaders to come on board, not only with a bank of strategies, but the willingness to passionately and purposefully walk alongside principals, monitoring and guiding how these strategies are being implemented at all schools, at all levels, based on the context. Therefore, evidence-based research suggests that educational leaders at the executive and principals levels should implement these leadership styles in transforming Jamaica's educational system. So here is it, we're coming up with some strategies to ensure that we will have not only a bank of strategies, but we'll have a team of high quality executive leaders that are ready to ensure that these strategies are well monitored and that our principals are not left alone to implement these strategies, but they are guided. So the suggestion of this study is that visionary leadership. So this study is making some suggestions to our nation's educational system. We're suggesting, we know that already servant leadership is currently being taught in some of our universities. What we are suggesting is that our nation go back. We need to return to visionary leadership. We need to return not only to visionary leadership, but we need to return to humble leadership. We have somewhat observed, the studies revealed, conversations with colleagues, fellow colleagues revealed that servant leadership has its strengths in the sense that it aligns with humble leadership. However, the name servant leadership, could it be that it's not being adopted because maybe persons are of the view that slavery has long been abolished and that they are no one's servant. They're not willing to embrace this leadership style of servant leadership because it aligns or bring back memory of slavery. However, emerging out of the study showed that servant leadership, humble leadership, visionary leadership, and spiritual leadership, specifically humble leadership and visionary leadership, because we must understand that without a timely vision, and I say that again, that as a nation who values education, we must understand that without a timely vision, without high quality leaders who are purposeful and passionate and willing, we cannot have true transformation of our nation's educational system unless we have high quality executive leaders who are willing to strategically, passionately, and purposefully walk our nation's educational leaders, specifically at the principals levels, through these strategies. Which means this must be modeled by our executive leaders. So we cannot have humble principals if our executive leaders, they do not demonstrate humility. We cannot have the leadership style servant leadership be modeled by our principals, if our executive leaders are not willing to model